Good morning and welcome to episode 3 of your daily art challenge this week. So today we're going to be working on our little geranium type plant, which is this one here. So we're going to be putting in some of the details with our little plant, and then we're also going to be adding in our detailing for our blue and white little china grouping. So it's the blue and white we're going to start off with first. Now it's entirely up to you how you do this. I am still going to be just using my size 6 brush. If you want to use something a little bit smaller, then please do so. But all we're going to be doing is just taking up a wonderful nice blue. Now blue as a colour is a relatively cool colour, and what you can do if you want to warm that colour blue up ever so slightly is you can actually mix in a tiny bit of yellow. Don't add too much yellow because it will go a little bit green, but you can add in a yellow or you can add in an orange, and it just warms that colour up ever so slightly. So I'm just going to take up a little bit of yellow, nothing too much, and you can see that it's just got a really nice warmer tone to the blue. So all you need to do is, once you've mixed a nice colour that you're then happy with, you can then just make a start by just painting in very gently and delicately your blue lines. Now again, you can paint them so you've got some little bits of white exposed, which works because that just then creates a little bit of light on your pottery. Think about where the paint is pooling and think about the direction of the paint so it all just sits just to one side. And like I say, please do bear in mind that this is just the first layer of colour, and we will be adding a little bit more shading and depth of colour to it as the challenge is ongoing. So I'll just put a bit on the bottom there. And then we'll just do the same for the little bowls. Add a bit more blue to my palette. And like I said to you when we were drawing these, you can decorate this little grouping of china however you wished. You don't have to do the blue and white. You could paint them in a terracotta colour if you wanted to. Like so. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to just work and put in some leaves of our little geranium plant. And this is very, very simple. Our little geranium is actually painted in the abstract style, so it's very similar to some of the watercolour doodles that you've done in the past. And believe it or not, this little plant is made up of just a series of paint squiggles. And then I've then added in the ink details over the top to make it look as though it's a little pot of geraniums. So we'll work with a base colour of green, and we'll just add in some of the leaves. And like I say, this is a base colour. You will then build the depth of colour as you go. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of green into my palette. Now again, the colour green is on that cool spectrum, and it can look a little bit cold. So if you wanted to warm it up, then the same rule applies. Add in a little bit of yellow or add in a little bit of orange, only a tiny bit, and that will just give you a warmer colour. So you can see in my palette here, it's quite a sort of a cool greeny colour. If we add in just a little bit of orange, and I mean just a little bit, it really sort of begins to warm up ever so slightly. Probably take a little bit more. There we go. So we've got a much warmer colour. So mix up a nice green that you're happy with, and then just using the same brush that you've been working with, you just need to just be very loose and just squiggle. And this is the reason why I didn't put in the lip of the terracotta pot. Like so. Just allow that to just come down a little bit. And that's all you need to do. Just keep it very, very loose indeed. Holding the brush quite a way up the handle, and that creates a much softer movement in your painting. If you hold your brush down here, you can only really move it fairly sort of tightly. If you hold your brush further up the handle, your level of movement is so much greater and therefore much more fluid and much softer. So we'll just add in just a couple of paler little bits, and then we just need to allow that to dry. So while that's drying, what we can do is we can just add in a little bit of colour to the Home Sweet Home sign. Now, the colour that I used in the previous example that I've been photographing is a paler pink, and again I've just allowed that paint to be quite sort of gradient in the way that the colour is applied to the paper, so it's darker at the bottom and then it shades out towards the top. So I'm going to use a similar colour, so I'm just going to mix a little bit of sort of purple and red together. If you haven't got a purple in your palette, then what you can mix is you can mix the primary colours of red and blue together, and that will create a nice purple for you. A red would also work as well. You'd be able to water down a nice red. So I'm happy with that colour. So again, just starting at the bottom. So thinking about where you want that paint, and thinking about the direction as well. So we want this little sign to look like a little wooden sign. So I'm going to take my brush strokes in opposite directions, working one way and then the other. And you can see you just get that nice sort of gradient effect. Any extra areas of pooling of paint, just take them up with a drier brush. Like so. And then while we're working with that lovely red colour, that red and pinky colour, we can actually add a little bit more red to that so it comes a little bit darker. So I'm using a nice burgundy red. And you could do these flowers any particular colour you like. They don't have to be red. You could do some little sort of pansy type flowers. You could do some little cornflowers. And again, the process is very, very similar to how you've just done the leaves. You just need to just do some little squiggles of colour, just keeping it nice and fluid, keeping that brush held really quite softly. Just being careful and working quite quickly, so you can actually take your time with this, but just be careful that that red doesn't bleed into the green, otherwise you'll end up with a bit of a muddy mess. And then we just need to allow that to dry. So while that's drying, we now can start to add a little bit of colour to our terracotta pot. So just using a nice brown, and we'll pick up some of the brown and put it into the palette. So I'm just using a dark brown that's watered down, so it's quite a nice sort of fluid type colour. Take the excess off the brush, and then you can just apply the colour to your little pot. Again, just paying attention to where the paint is sitting, so you can manipulate that so it sits darker around one end, so you've got a nice bit of shading going on. Like so. And then just very carefully just pop in the colour along the rim. Like so. We'll just bring that colour back along here a little bit. We can add in the final details anyway as we're finishing off the painting. So the green is now dry. So while our first layer of the brown is just drying, we can then just go over the green with a darker colour. So you can mix that directly from your pan into your palette. And using a very, very similar technique, just add in some darker shapes of leaves. And just think about the shapes of a geranium leaf. They've got a nice sort of rounded shape to them. So you're just going to create just that nice bit of shape. I suppose another nice plant that you could do, which would be interesting, would be the cyclamen. That again is very, very simple in its form. Like so. And that is pretty much it. That's all we need to be doing today. What we're going to be doing in episode 4 is just working with some additional little bits of shading, little bits of extra depth of colour. So all you need to do today, just to recap, is you're putting in the base colour of your geraniums and your leaves, painting in your terracotta pot, painting in the blue and white of the jug, and then also colouring in your little home sweet home sign. So very, very simple steps. Just take your time between paint applications just to allow those colours to dry. And I shall see you all again tomorrow for episode 4, which will be our final bit of painting before we go ahead and add in the ink detail. Hope you're enjoying this process. Any questions, please do just get in touch with me and let me know. I'm more than happy to help. And I shall see you all tomorrow, where we deal with just the final little bits of shading details to your painting. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.